Just how the global community manages the disease, whether there'll be a second wave, for example. But what should governments and financial institutions do to try and soften the blow and to speed up the long, slow recovery? Well, that's what we're here today to discuss. And I'm really delighted to be joined by two Nobel laureates, both held the position of Chief Economist of the World Bank, Professor Joseph Stiglitz and Professor Paul Romer. Thank you very much for joining me here at the summit. So the world is in crisis mode. Central banks have already unleashed really huge stimulus programs to act as a security blanket and try and stimulate growth and soften the blow. But is this enough?
One of the objectives of the money was to avoid a huge increase in unemployment. It was important to keep workers attached to their firms. Many countries felt the same way and succeeded. There were alternative designs to the program. New Zealand, Denmark, a number of countries actually designed programs that at much less cost kept people connected with the firms. The United States has had the largest increase in unemployment of any of the countries, and even those who were as or worse affected by the disease itself. And then there were many parts of our economy that were not, didn't get any assistance. In the 2008 crisis, the revenues of the states went down twice as much as that as GDP.
Well, I think this is a context where we've got to think of a multi-front kind of approach. There are the traditional kinds of stimulus measures, the traditional kinds of support for jobs and unemployment, which are very important. In this particular crisis, we have a shock which is persisting. It's not like a liquidity crisis in the banking, like a bank run that is over in a week or two, less than a month. We've got an ongoing shock because of this pandemic. This shock is making people afraid to go out and do things like go to a restaurant, go see the dentist, go do all of the kinds of things that are part of economic activity. And so we need to have a clear vision of what the government can do to remove and reduce the shock. Now, as this bears on the global context, there's a question about why we have not seen as much spread of the virus in poor countries as we've seen in rich.
Of human history.